are Redeemer Radio, Catholic radio for Michiana. 95.7 FM WRDI, Napanee, South Bend, Elkhart. Welcome home to your family of faith.
Live from the Redeemer Radio 95.7 studios in the shadows of the Golden Dome, this is Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays.
It is hard to imagine we are at senior day for the Notre Dame football team in the final game to be played at Notre Dame Stadium this season. The matchup against lowly 3-7 Georgia Tech today is certainly far from enticing, but the stakes remain through the roof for the Irish. Win and the possibilities for the college football playoff remain alive. Lose and, well, we'll be going crazy on the show next Saturday, and so will the Irish football fans. Maybe they'll be as upset as I am this morning because nothing's going right for Angelo in his world this week. All right, never mind. That's my rant for the morning. Welcome to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays, Notre Dame FCU, where you beg does matter. I'm Angelo DiCarlo. So glad to be with you this morning. Joined as always by Kevin Downey with Ilya Glasman contributing on the other side of the glass. We expected a shootout last week at Virginia, Kevin. We did not get that. Brendan Armstrong was not able to play for the Hokies. Or for Virginia, for the Cavaliers, excuse me, at quarterback. It resulted in Notre Dame rolling to a 28-3 win on the road, even without Kyle Hamilton, Drew White, MTA not all playing.
Yeah.
Against one of the nation's top offenses. Obviously not one of the nation's top offenses without Brendan Armstrong. Yeah. And now the Irish facing 3-7 Georgia Tech. You know, Brian Kelly trying to build this game up this week is, hey, they got really good players over there and, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, you come off the win, you're 9-1, you're feeling good, you're going to face a pair of teams that are not good to close out the season. Is this a trap game?
Yeah, it could be. But I think the way that Georgia Tech's defense, especially their secondary plays, there's going to be a lot of big plays. They're aggressive up front, so sometimes they'll have big defensive stops, tackles for loss or sacks, but there's something's wrong with the coverage on the back end for Georgia Tech. I would say we're going to see some pretty big plays.
I asked the question, is it a trap game, for the very obvious reason, right? If they were to lose this game,
yeah,
it would be one of the worst. I'm trying to think of a loss that would be as bad as the loss today. I think you would go to Tulsa in 2010, Brian Kelly's first year. I think that would be the last time you would have to equate a loss that would be as – and that, look, I'm not saying they're going to lose.
They're back in the playoff picture talk.
That's what I'm saying. What's on the line? You know what I mean? Like, you talk about a scenario where you'd lose anyone that has finally started to
come around,
give them a little credit. Finally giving the team credit. I mean, man, would you lose everybody if you lost today? Because that's how bad Georgia Tech is. I don't care. BK can say all he wants. I mean, Georgia Tech's 3 wins are to Kennesaw State.
Yeah.
They beat North Carolina.
That was the big one.
That was the good one, 45-22. Yep. And then their other win is against Duke. I mean,
yeah,
they're not. The
North Carolina one's just kind of a head scratcher. They look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what North Carolina is, though. They're one of these teams that they're kind of
good,
they're kind of not. All right, I'm trying to figure out ways of creating controversy in the show today because there is just not much to create, and that's probably Brian Kelly's problem this week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is trying to build this up like, hey, look at some of these guys, look at Gibbs, look at whatever, and he's trying to create a sense of urgency for his guys this week. You're a longtime coach. That can be difficult at times, right? Because it's human nature for these guys to walk into this week and go,
feeling pretty good.
Well, we're going to win these last 2 games,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what do you do as a coach to try to get the pulse of your team to make sure that they're ready to go this week? Because you say all this coach speak of like, hey, we got to play to our standard, blah, blah, blah. Look, if you don't mention the other team in that regard, I don't know. It's just, I feel like you're going to get a natural letdown in this game here, early on especially.
Well, I guess there could be. As far as a coach, I would just really focus on the preparation. It's coach speak, but I'd focus on what we could do to improve our own team. And BK's not wrong. They have a good running back and talent at the quarterback position. They play a couple different guys. Like I like number 10 Sims way more than the other guy that's starting. But again, I'm not inside the locker room. I don't know. I think with the improvement that Notre Dame has shown this year, especially coming out of the gate where they had young guys, injuries, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So whatever BK's doing, however he has to spin it, I think he knows his guys because they keep getting better.
All right, let's let Ilya chime in as a fan on the other side of the glass.
Hello.
Are you concerned in any way?
Not with the game itself particularly, though. What I am concerned is that if Notre Dame were to win and Ohio State were to lose today, I'm not so certain that the committee would put Notre Dame ahead of Ohio State.
Oh, I think they will. To loss Ohio State, I think absolutely. I'm not concerned about that. I think if Notre Dame won by 17-16 against Georgia Tech, then I still don't think that would be the case. I think if Ohio State's 2 losses, I think the only team that's going to get the benefit of the doubt of being a 2-loss team is Alabama. Nobody else. I don't think anyone else gets that. Now, your greater point about style points does come into a play. If they come out here and they don't win big, like I had a couple of people asking me this week, why didn't they go for more points at the end of the half with 1:15 left? They kind of just took a knee and said forget about it and didn't score. Like they could have won that game 49-3 last week.
Yeah.
BK doesn't do that, but it kind of should almost because you kind of need those style points. I guess that would be the concern in some ways today is because you come out and you win 31-17. Does that impress anybody when you're trying to leapfrog anyone in the playoff standings? But, I mean, I don't know if it matters in the end. They just got to win, and then they have to have other teams lose.
Yeah, and other teams are going to play. It'll all play out for sure.
I mean, that's what it's going to be. All right, on tap on this morning's show, our featured interview with Jack Nolan, the legendary and now retired voice of Notre Dame basketball, shares memories of his career, the origins of Got It, and if he misses it now, that the hoop season is back in play. We'll break down the matchup with Georgia Tech, although we've kind of already done that in some ways. Our poll question, what defensive position group, defensive line, linebacker, secondary has impressed you the most this season based on what they've overcome? You can weigh in. Just head to Twitter, search for my handle, add on to Carlo to cast your vote. It's pinned at the top. We will discuss that question next segment. Later this segment, we'll hear from Jack Nolan on his experience at Notre Dame. Kurt Heinrich explains how he kind of gets emotional before games. Plus, can the Irish – it's funny, and you're going to want to put the breakfast away for a second. Plus, can the Irish make the playoff? We'll look at those playoff scenarios. Let's start with the update on the Irish injury front. Safety Kyle Hamilton pretty much ruled out for the season – for the regular season, I should say, at this point. Brian Kelly said this week suddenly it's a 6-week injury. He has not said that for the last couple of weeks, and I don't know if that was more opinions coming through and they finally figured out, but we're at week 4. So obviously you do the math, and he won't be back for Stanford next week. I think at this point it seems like if they make the college football playoff, you see Kyle Hamilton.
If not, he's going pro.
Yeah, or maybe if they're playing Michigan in a major bowl game, you see Kyle Hamilton. I don't know. Maybe something like that is a possibility. He's very much engaged. In fact, he sat right in front of us at the St. Joe Marion girls basketball game the other day because he was with his roommate and teammate Connor Radican, Connor St. Joe alum, and cheering on his sister Kelly, who's the star for St. Joe. So Kyle and Cam Hart, KJ Wallace also there all together. So they're certainly engaged and that, but not ready to go and not ready to play. They shouldn't need him in these last 2 games of the regular season.
True. Well, and once I saw the announcement, I thought of you because that was what we talked about right away was, wow, is the injury going to be worth it, with him possibly losing out on lots of money?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. And they said if he's ready to go, he's going to play and he wants to play. Again, what does that definition of means ready to go ultimately means, right? Flu bug still going around the team as of Thursday.
See, that's a pretty big deal.
Right.
I mean, that's something you can't control.
The positive was a lot of guys were out Tuesday, BK said, and
Okay.
most of them were all back Wednesday. So he was hopeful it was trending in the right direction.
All right.
The last time we talked to him was Thursday. So you're hoping
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, you're hoping at this point it's gone and out of the system. Obviously, it prevented Drew White and MTA from playing last week. You know, they won that game without four captains playing in the game. Easily.
Well, that pass rush won that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty intense.
8 sacks.
Oh.
8 sacks.
I mean, that
It felt like more.
All right, the Irish seem to be putting it all together. How much better are they now than they were earlier in the season? Here's Brian Kelly.
We're better than we were in September and October. So this football team is getting better each and every week. We played young players that are now much more mature and playing better. And we're ascending as a football team. So, you know, anytime you're trying to put a resume together, it's about how you play later in the year. And so, you know, the eye test is this football team is playing better defensively, offensively. And, you know, we're sitting here 9-1. We've turned over virtually an entire roster and playing pretty good football.
It's interesting that BK says the eye test because he knows if you kind of just look at who they're beating, you can't match it up with, like, you know, Ohio State playing Michigan State today, right? So you're going to have to go with, look, how much better we are than we were. Hint, how much better we are than we were when we played Cincinnati. You know what I mean? If we played Cincinnati again, we'd beat them maybe. You know what I mean? Now, the loss matters. We get that.
Yeah.
But I do think they are playing better football, and here's a question for you. They play Cincinnati today. Who wins?
Well, I thought they should beat Cincinnati the first time. So, I mean, again, I think that they would win because they have improved drastically. They actually have a run game now. They've solidified the offensive line. Cone the QB isn't throwing. Wow, the interceptions aren't that big, but the sacks, he's not getting sacked as much.
No, he's not getting sacked as much. Although he does have, he's good for one weird pass a game that gets picked off.
Yeah, but even the one against in the last game, I mean, that was like a 50-50 ball. That wasn't. I don't fault him. It was a little weird.
All right. I'll
wasn't as bad as the one on the goal line when he's falling down.
Well, that
was brutal.
It's not as bad as getting run over by a train. Sure. I mean, you know, falling off your bike is not as bad as getting run over a train. I get that, but still. All right. Now, with that said, Notre Dame's best friend remains Wisconsin, who is moving up and now up to 15th in the rankings. I don't know if Notre Dame played Wisconsin again. If Notre Dame would well, they didn't really cruise to victory. Let's a reminder.
It was a really wild fourth quarter.
It was a wild fourth quarter. It was in jeopardy.
Special teams,
they were
defense.
losing in the fourth quarter, and then all chaos happened, and they ended up winning in a blowout. But it was not close. All right, it was not close in the fourth quarter, but it was close the rest of the way. College football playoff rankings: Georgia is number 1, Bama 2, Oregon 3, Ohio State 4, Cincinnati 5, Michigan 6, Michigan State 7. I don't get it on those two, but whatever. Notre Dame 8, Oklahoma State 9, Wake Forest 10. Okay, Michigan State plays Ohio State today. That'll take care of itself. Ohio State plays Michigan next week. That'll take care of itself.
Yep.
For the most part, there's probably one weird scenario in there that you could have a two Big Ten teams in the mix. But for the most part, I don't think that'll be the case. That should even out. So
basically,
they'll battle each other. So let's just look at it. You drop a couple of Big Ten teams out. Now you have Notre Dame at 6, you know, at the end of the season. They need two more teams to lose. Alabama hosting number 21 Arkansas today. Possibility. They got Auburn. Then they've got Georgia.
Yeah.
You know, Alabama certainly could lose here the rest of the way. Would Notre Dame move ahead of a 2-loss Alabama team? I think if they lost to Arkansas, they would. They lose by 3 points to Georgia in the SEC championship. We got to wait and see on that.
They're going to get the benefit of the doubt, yeah.
They might. Cincinnati is an interesting one.
Yeah.
They play SMU. They have a tough road here. They're not playing as well. If Cincinnati loses and Notre Dame wins out, does a 1-loss Notre Dame go ahead of a 1-loss Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati beat Notre Dame head-to-head?
I would think so, just because of the strength of schedule for the rest of the games.
And everyone is arguing there's no way Michigan should be ahead of Michigan State, and then they'd be doing the exact same reason. I mean, the committee, though, has opened the door to allow Notre Dame to jump ahead of Cincinnati is the case. The big one here is Oregon.
Yeah, something's going to happen.
Oregon facing Utah, and they're going to have to face Utah twice.
Mm-hmm.
They lose one of those two games, that opens up the possibilities for Notre Dame. If Oregon wins out, I don't know if Notre Dame has a window in here. Ilya, what are your thoughts?
Well, you also have to worry about who's behind Notre Dame.
That's a good point.
Oklahoma State, they still have to play Oklahoma, and who do they play today?
Texas Tech, they got.
But, yeah, they still
Well, they got Oklahoma twice.
Yeah, they're going to have to play Oklahoma twice in the Big 12 championship game and next week in Bedlam. So if they were to win out, they would most certainly jump ahead of Notre Dame.
If they win out, but they got to beat Oklahoma twice to win out. So I'm banking on that won't happen. But you're right. I think they jump at a one-loss Big 12 champion that has beat Oklahoma twice in 3 weeks is going to jump ahead of Notre Dame, who beats Georgia Tech and Stanford. So, yes, it's a very good point. You got to worry about Oklahoma State behind you as well. All right, the scenarios are out there. I think, though, 4 weeks ago we thought there was no scenario.
Yeah.
So
the improvement's drastic.
And things are happening. So you have the chance. They may end up 5 or 6 in the end and not get in. And you know what? They may be better off not getting in because I don't know if you want to face Georgia because I don't think this team is as good as the previous playoff teams that Notre Dame has had.
I would agree with that. But I mean, you want a chance to be in it.
You still want a chance. That's the thing. You still want a chance to make it happen. All right. Big thank you to TIRAC for all their support of our internship program that we run with students from St. Joseph and Marian High Schools here in Michiana. The students receive practical college-level internship experience, helping out with the broadcast of high school football and basketball. Wouldn't be possible without the underwriting support from the folks at TIRAC. No surprise, TIRAC named the best tire center in Michiana in the South Bend Tribune's Best of the Best Awards. More tires, great prices. Visit TIRAC.com. All right, today is senior day. Not quite the same for Jack Cohn. After all, he's a graduate transfer, but he has a great affinity for Notre Dame, and I asked him this week about his experience at Notre Dame this year.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we're just going to try to soak it all in. I mean, my last one at Notre Dame Stadium, so, it's crazy how quick it's gone, and it's going to be emotional, but do my best at fighting back those emotions and just focus on the game, but I'm definitely going to soak it all in.
You say it'll be emotional. You don't express too much emotion with us too much. Are you an emotional type at times? So take us through that a little bit.
I mean, a little bit when, it's, stuff I love. I love football and I love Notre Dame. So it's definitely going to be crazy. I think it's my last time there, but yeah, I guess I'm emotional sometimes. Yeah.
How much has this experience maybe lived up to your expectations, exceeded your expectations of coming to Notre Dame in terms of, just the whole journey that you've been on this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's exceeded expectations. You're not really sure, when you come to a program like Notre Dame that's been so successful, exactly how everything is going to be run. But, from day one, it was such a blue-collar program. And just to see the way, see how hard everyone's worked from the time I've gotten here, and the coaching staff, the strength staff, the way everyone's worked throughout this has been special for me. And it's been cool to, learn about this winning culture.
Notre Dame quarterback Jack Cohn making his final appearance in Notre Dame Stadium today. Look, people have dogged Jack Cohn this year. I will say
I've been hard on him.
Yeah, right. But I will say this: looking back at this season to this point, I don't think Notre Dame's sitting here at 9-1 if Jack Cohn never came to Notre Dame. Let's just say they had to go with
one of the young guys.
If they had to go with Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner. People are arguing Drew Pine is better than Jack Cohn. Never got that opportunity. You thought so as well. But I think if Pine was in the whole time from the beginning, if Buckner was in the whole time from the beginning, I think they would have just had those rookie moments that would have led to one of those games not going their way. And I think Notre Dame would have 2 losses right now. So I think Cohn has helped in that regard.
Well, and I think, he's improved too. The offensive line, the first couple of games, that was a huge issue.
Right.
Everything looked bad. It was not good. I guess it's an interesting thing in today's football with people being able to do. I mean, that's a kind of a tough assignment, right? To be a grad transfer, come in, quarterback for Notre Dame, kind of an important position. And the way he's handled it seems, top notch. And he does have a point with the winning culture that it's been a good couple of years. I mean, BK is now more consistent over the last 4 or 5 years, then I mean it's impressive, and lots of people have come and gone now.
Look, it's 5 straight 10-win seasons. I mean,
not just players, but coaches. Like there's a consistency.
All right, Kurt Heinisch came back for a 5th year because of the COVID rule. Played 5 seasons of college football, so no one else gets to be able to say they got to do that. Only a handful of people. I asked him this week if you'll get emotional pregame. Okay, so if it's 9:19. So if you're eating breakfast right now, push it away from you for a second. You've been warned. Here's Kurt Heinisch when asked whether or not he may have some tears today.
No, the extent of me getting emotional before games is I've been throwing up before games. I throw up before every game, and I've been doing it for a long time. That's something that people don't know about me. I throw up. I throw up in the garbage can before every single game, no matter who we're playing. Every single game. Yeah.
All right.
And that was our last press conference with Kurt Heinisch. Well, I mean, I should say last one. We'll probably get him one more time. But what a piece of work. Have any teammates or players under your wing that would throw up in the trash can before every game?
No, I mean, that's pretty gross.
All right. We won't talk about that anymore, so you can resume. I mean, I don't know if you can resume eating your breakfast, but if you can, we will miss you, Kurt, but we won't miss those sound bites at 9 a.m. in the morning. All right, still to come, our featured interview is with former voice of the Irish, Jack Nolan, and up next, what Notre Dame defensive unit has impressed us the most this year. We weigh in, Brian Kelly weighs in, and you get to weigh in. Notre Dame FCU's Irish Sports Saturdays, back right after this.
Elevate 150 financial checkups at Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. Here's how it works. Go online and schedule a 30-minute phone call. They'll guide you through your credit report to find ways to improve your financial health. Then they'll send $150 in your name to Redeemer Radio. For information, visit NotreDameFCU.com/elevate. You already share our values. Why not share in our benefits? Notre Dame FCU.
Support for programming on Redeemer Radio is provided by the DeNicola Center for Ethics and Culture at the University of Notre Dame. The DeNicola Center is committed to sharing the richness of the Catholic moral and intellectual tradition, both on campus and in the wider public square. Learn more about the DeNicola Center and see our schedule of upcoming conferences, lectures, and events at ethicscenter.nd.edu.
Elkhart Bedding believes a good mattress is the key to a good night's sleep, and as a factory outlet, they can save you money too. Elkhart Bedding has been family run and locally owned for more than 100 years, and they believe in giving back to our community. That's why Elkhart Bedding supports Catholic entities like Redeemer Radio and the Apostolate of Divine Mercy in South Bend, and hopes you will too. Elkhart Bedding is located at 2124 Sterling Avenue in Elkhart or at elkhartbedding.com.
Are you struggling to make ends meet or know someone who is? Let the St. Vincent de Paul Society help. From food to clothing vouchers, financial assistance, and even beds for children, the St. Vincent de Paul Society has been helping the community since 1904. Programs are available to residents of St. Joseph County at no cost. For more information, call 574-234-6000 or visit our website at svdpsb.org.
Well, all our high school football teams in the Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend are now out of the postseason after Marion lost to Brebeuf last night 17-16. I was on the call of that one. Heartbreaking defeat for the Knights, who are right there, but a tremendous season for them. Not many people thought they had a shot at getting there this year, and they were just 1 point away. Third straight time they've lost in semi-state, but what a great year.
Yeah, and they improved a lot as the year went on as well. That's another, crazy. 1 point.
And by the way, shout out to Northridge, who is going to the state championship here in Michiana, team that lost 4 or 5 games to close out the regular season.
Wow.
And they're going to go play for a state championship for the first time in school history. Pretty unbelievable. Tom Wagaman, who's no longer the coach, retired last year.
Yeah.
Shout out to him because that man built Northridge football. And he's a big reason why they are going to go play for a state championship. All right, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech today at Notre Dame Stadium. The Irish hoping Georgia Tech doesn't have a sudden resurgence late in the season here. They're not very good. They're 3-7. But talking about the Notre Dame defense, and I was interested this week of, which defensive unit has been the most impressive this year. So I posed the question to Brian Kelly, pointing out secondary without Kyle Hamilton. They had so many injuries in the linebackers early in the season. The defensive line has had so much incredible depth. Here's what Brian Kelly had to say.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think you could make the case, for the safety position, without Hamilton, you would think that immediately that's a huge void to fill. Then it is, and it still is, right? Because you really can't replace a guy like that. But then you watch Ramon, the other night. I mean, he made an interception. He was in a too-high zone. He was just inside the left hash, and he went all the way across the field and picked that ball off the numbers. I mean, that's incredible range. So, finding that kind of range at safety, you could start there. But then you go to defensive end, and then Riley Mills comes up with 3 sacks. And that's that's pretty good. Look, I mean, what J.D. Bertrand's done this year for us, losing Marist. Marist was poised to be a difference maker for us this year. So, I mean, I think you could probably take from those 3, a little bit from each level, and make the case there. That would be my estimation.
So he dodged it. He didn't actually answer the question. He gave good reasons for everybody.
They're valid points.
They're all valid points, and I think you have an argument for anyone. We asked the question on Twitter. Defensive line running away with this 60%. Yeah. Linebackers 21%, secondary 19%. I'm just curious. My intention of the question was who's impressed you the most, not who's been the best unit. And I wonder if people answered who they thought was the best unit. I think clearly defensive line is the best of those 3 units, but I've been most impressed with the secondary. I mean, I don't know if we thought the corners were going to be that good this year, and certainly I don't think we thought the secondary was going to hold up without Kyle Hamilton. In game 1 or week 1 of this show, I said if Notre Dame loses Kyle Hamilton, they're going to lose games this year. They haven't since they lost him. What's your take?
I think it's kind of a hybrid position, but I think the Viper or their rush ends like 7. Foskey obviously is having a really good year, but then 9, Emmondale. I can't say that one. He had a great game.
Adam Lola.
Thank you. He had a great game against Virginia. Now, Virginia was pretty brutal. Like, I was running around a lot. But, that's pretty impactful. Those guys are really – and, again, they have them listed as a Viper, so it looks to me like they're a 3-4, so it's an outside linebacker pass rush. That, to me, is the biggest impact.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, what's impressed me the most, obviously – I kind of see Angelo's point, the secondary, but what's impressed me the most about this has been the young guys, the freshmen and the sophomores that have been playing on not even just defense.
And that's kind of what BK was getting to, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
like the depth that Notre Dame has, not just for this year, but years to come, we're got a really good future ahead of us.
Well, look, if it's 2013, 2014, this team has 3 or 4 losses because they don't have that kind of depth.
Yeah.
And when they've had the injuries that they've had this year,
especially early,
they're not able to withstand those injuries, And this team has.
Bertrand, and the success of winning year after year after year, you get better recruits. So
yeah,
from top to bottom, you're better.
You're better, and that's the bottom line. And that's one of the reasons why you're sustaining the winning. Winning builds winning.
Yeah.
It's
pretty simple.
It
you just got to get to that point.
Yeah, you got to get to that point. And once you break through it can sustain a little bit. And now Notre Dame hoping to get that next level up. All right, coming up, we look more in depth at the matchup with Georgia Tech in our game day sprint to kickoff. Up next, my conversation with the former voice of the Irish, Jack Nolan. Notre Dame FCU's Irish Sports Saturdays returns after this quick message from our supporters.
We know you like football. So do we. We're TireRack.com, and this is our version of a 2-minute drill, except it's only 30 seconds. TireRack.com has an enormous selection of tires. Not sure which ones to buy? Use our Tire Decision Guide to find the right tires for your vehicle and the way you drive. Then get them shipped fast and free on all orders over $50. Shipping is in as little as 1 day. Free. TireRack.com ships to independent, recommended installers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be. Touchdown!
Hi, this is Angel DiCarlo. By now, I'm sure you've heard the commercials about Elevate 150 from Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. My wife and I took part in the free financial checkup and got Redeemer Radio $150, so pretty awesome there. But we also got a lot more. Notre Dame FCU helped us out with a bunch of items that we have been pushing off for a while. Now we're in a much better position financially thanks to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. Now it's your chance for better financial health. Sign up for a free checkup at NotreDameFCU.com/elevate.
Did you know that 1 in 5 Americans will develop skin cancer by the age of 70? Skin cancer is the most common form of cancer, and it's mainly caused by sunshine. And even though the sun only seems to be working part-time now that cold weather is here, you may still have skin cancer developing in areas of sun exposure. If you notice a spot that looks different than anything else on your skin, or a non-healing sore that lasts more than a month, see a dermatologist. Such areas could be skin cancer. I'm Dr. Tom McGovern, skin cancer and reconstructive surgeon practicing at Fort Wayne Dermatology now for over 20 years. I've treated over 30,000 skin cancers with Mohs surgery, an outpatient procedure that provides a 99% cure rate for new basal cell skin cancers. If you have skin cancer, my compassionate and skilled team at Fort Wayne Dermatology would be privileged to care for you.
Join Bishop Kevin Rhodes Wednesdays at noon for a new episode of Truth and Charity. Each week, he has a conversation with host Kyle Hyman about Scripture, the lives of the saints, and issues affecting Catholics today. Listen to episodes anytime by going to RedeemerRadio.com or search for Truth and Charity on the Apple, Google, or Spotify podcast apps. Then share your favorite with a friend. Truth and Charity with Bishop Rhodes is brought to you in part by Notre Dame Federal Credit Union.
Welcome back here on Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. Jack Nolan, the voice of Notre Dame athletics for 39 years, started at WNDU, did play-by-play for Notre Dame football and basketball with my late great friend Jeff Jeffers over the years. Announced in the offseason he was retiring after 39 years as the voice of Notre Dame basketball, known for his famous catchphrase, "Got it," or "Got it!" As he would like to say on occasion and go absolutely bonkers. We actually talk about the origins of Got It and how it grew into his signature call along with retirement, and if he misses it now that basketball season is underway, along with his favorite game he's ever broadcasted. Here's my conversation with the voice of the Irish, Jack Nolan. Well, Jack, based on your tweets, it appears retirement is treating you rather well. Where are you currently stationed?
Currently, I'm sitting in what I think will be my office in Indian Harbor Beach, Florida, in a condo we kind of stumbled upon a couple of years ago and bought in December. But it's been terrific. We got out of town the first week of November. Ironically, I actually emceed the Boy Scouts Awards Luncheon on November 2nd, got in the car on November 3rd, drove straight through to Indian Harbor Beach, Florida, 19 hours, in part because I like to think I'm the love of my wife's life, Rhonda, but it might be her cats, 3 cats, and rather than try to put them in a hotel, we drove them straight through. And if you go to my Facebook page, there's a photo of a couple of the cats helping me drive. They did much better than we thought they would. And going to be down here for much of the winter. I guess somewhat ironically, I'll be back for the next home Notre Dame basketball game against Kentucky because my former broadcast partner, LaFonso Ellis, is being inducted into the Notre Dame Ring of Honor, and I certainly can't miss that. And Notre Dame doesn't play another home game between now and then. I saw the first exhibition game. And other than that, we'll be in Florida, except for a little New Year's Eve trip we're taking with some friends.
Is it weird now? I mean, the first couple months, maybe you're enjoying yourself, but now being at basketball season, is it weird not being in South Bend calling games?
A little bit. It probably helps not being there because it's just different. Normally, if I'm going to call a basketball game, I don't spend the afternoon sitting on the beach in the sun, which I'm doing now. But I mean, in all honesty, the one thing that I probably wasn't quite ready to give up was calling basketball games. It's always been the love of my life. It's always been the passion. As much as I loved covering football, and I got to call Notre Dame football on television on WNDU with Jeff Jeffers, the late Jeff Jeffers, from 82 to 90, basketball has always been the passion and what kept me there, my association with the basketball program. And I'd like to think I was still at the top of my game. I mean, obviously last year was weird, calling road games off a television monitor in a studio. So I didn't get to go on the road until the ACC tournament. And had like a dramatic finish in the first game that many will remember. And I really enjoyed it. So that's the one thing I'm missing. But beyond that, you know, it was kind of time. People ask, why did you retire? Because we can. And that's because both my wife, Rhonda, who's smarter than I am, we worked our butts off on. You know what the business is like, and she was in the business. We actually anchored a newscast on WNDU for many years on Sunday mornings, and then she intelligently also got other jobs like communications director for the local Honeywell plant. She worked for a great medical consulting company, Press Ganey, the last 15 years. And all we did was basically we bought a nice house, but we worked and weren't blessed with kids. So all that college money, we started investing it in 1985. So people, if you wonder if it's worth investing, I mean, you normally don't make great deals of money or save great deals of money when you work for other people. You know that. Most people who get to retire early, like own their own businesses and whatnot. And certainly not that we're rolling in dough, but we were able to do it. And after 39 years, it was probably time, because when you do what we do, as you know, you're rarely off, especially if you're working for a local television station or then working for a college athletic department. And folks admire anybody you know who does that. Because right now with lower staffs, and everybody has lower staffs, every athletic department is running some kind of a deficit because of the impact of COVID. I mean, you're working your butt off. Certainly, if I had wanted to just announce the basketball games and had said that and asked that, which I didn't, I think they would have let me. But the other thing was, I won't be there when it's snowing anymore, Anj. We get out of there the first week of November, and 3 days later, I think it was snowing up there, and I don't miss that at all. So weird, yes, but I am enjoying and adjusting to retirement so far has been easier than I thought it would be. And I was up there all summer doing charity events and saying yes to all the invitations we used to have to say no to because either Rhonda was traveling or I was working. So we were probably busier this summer than we would have been if we were working.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking with Jack Nolan, the legendary former voice of Notre Dame basketball and football over the years here on Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. Honestly, when you announced you were retiring, I fell out of my chair because I thought you would die in the chair because I knew how much you loved calling basketball. But good for you. You know, I said it to you then. I was so happy that you were able to. You're able to now enjoy the fruits of the labor, right? Because it is so much labor. But I'm sure there are moments that are going to happen over these next couple of years that you're really gonna miss. What are the little things that, obviously the games themselves they're the ultimate high, but what are some of the little things you're gonna miss, Jack, about when you're around the teams and everything like that?
Well, the relationships, and you know, I had a very good one with Brian Kelly, and the football team treated me very, very well. I was lucky that I got one of my last gigs with football was being the sideline reporter, and I got to travel with the team. I was actually the only member of the radio crew that did travel with the team, and that was a wonderful experience, and got to know the players a little bit better. And you know, Mike Bray is like a brother to me to this day. I text him a couple times a week. I almost felt like I was abandoning him to a degree because I think basketball is going to be really good. Football's good right now. I mean, Notre Dame is a perennial top 10 team. They keep recruiting better and better. It's going to be hard to compete with the top 2 or 3 teams in the country because Notre Dame's never going to run their program that way. But they're very, very good. And I think basketball is on its way back. I will be surprised if they don't make the tournament this year. I think they're very deep and talented. I know their first 2 regular season games didn't blow anyone's doors off, but I think Paul Atkinson Jr. is a great addition. I'll tell you what, Blake Wesley's even better than average. I think Nate Laszewski is going to have an absolute breakout year. I'm very fond of Trey Wirtz. Cormac Ryan's a veteran. Dane Goodwin's doing what he always does, stuffing the stat sheet, not looking spectacular until the end of the game. I think it's going to come down, and I hate to put pressure on anybody, is Prentice Hub. How consistent can Prentice be? I think he has not shot well. He's 1 for 13 from 3. He's got to produce offensively. What I do like is he has 11 assists to 3 turnovers so far this year, and that's the key. He has to be solid on the field, but on the full court. I think they'll get it. The great, recruiting class that the basketball team just brought in. I think Anthony Solomon coming back in an assistant coach's role is huge for the program, and I think they're going to be very good. And I'll miss that kind of excitement. The closest thing you can get to playing is announcing, especially on the radio, from an emotional standpoint. No, you don't impact wins or losses, but it's a performance that you prepare for. And if the team has a great game, you want to be up to that level. And if the team struggles, you want to do a good job on the broadcast to still make it entertaining. And I miss that performance aspect of it.
What are the origins of Got It?
It's organic. I didn't think to myself, I need a catch-all phrase. And when you think about it, lots of announcers say got it. I grew up listening to Johnny Most, who only old folks are going to remember, legendary announcer for the Boston Celtics. And he used to say bang. And I kind of stole that for a while. I mean, once Bob Costas, believe it or not, when he was a young broadcaster right out of Syracuse, was doing Missouri Tiger basketball for KMOX in St. Louis, and I was doing it for the student station 2 seats down. And a couple times we both said bang, and I'd beat him with the bang, and Bob would point at me. But it somehow, I knew it wasn't mine. And at the time, I think Johnny Most really was one of the ones that originated that. There's other announcers use it today. But Got It is my signature call because of the emotions behind it. And I have a journalism degree from the University of Missouri, and you were supposed to be objective even when you were a team's announcer. But I noticed as I got closer and closer to the team, and I always tried to avoid saying we, because I didn't block any shots. I didn't get any floor burns. But beyond that, when I became more and more comfortable with being the team's announcer, got some reinforcement both from players and the fans. I mean, I was part of when the internet really took off in terms of fan comments. And now we all know that most of the people on the internet commenting the most are trolls, and they're not going to like anybody.
That's true.
And I'd have Notre Dame fans saying, what a freaking homer. Well, I'm the Notre Dame announcer, people. I always tried to be what I describe my style as subjectively objective. I'm going to call it from a Notre Dame perspective, but I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to bury anybody. I'm not going to rip anybody. But if they're not playing well, I'm going to say it. But obviously, as Notre Dame announcer, I want them to win. So as the years went by and I became more and more comfortable with that, and I'll tell you a quick Jack Cooley story in a second. And then I got to the point where I knew fans loved it, and I wasn't afraid to show my allegiance. I let it go nuts. And a couple of times I went nuts, and I thought it was bad. Bob Henning, legendary engineer for Notre Dame broadcast, still doing football and basketball, said, no, I thought that was great. Jack Cooley, Evansville, about 10 years ago, I think. He is at the top of the key, and Evansville backs off him. It's a home game at Purcell Pavilion. And I announced, and he's the center. Cooley, 3-point land, they back off him, they dare him to shoot it. He shoots it, he makes it. Okay. End of the game, Notre Dame's up like 30 or 40. And Cooley starts talking to me. There's 2 minutes left. He's walking over to the broadcast position, and he goes, what? And I take my hand. He goes, did I get it? Got it. And I went, oh, yeah, you got it, because the game's still going on. After the game, I'm walking over to him. He's with his girlfriend. He looks at me and goes, oh, no, I didn't get it. Got it, did I? I said, no, you got something much better. I described it. They dared you. You took the dare. You made the shot. I said, you'll get it. Got it next time. And he said, Jack,
There won't be a next time.
There won't be a next time. So, and then, the players on the team bus, there were many years where they would post the video highlights on UND.com with my calls. And the guys had listened to it in the back of the bus. So when it became important to that, I would get emails. What? Connaughton, that basket wasn't good enough for Got It from fans. It grew on its own, and then I kind of just wrote it out. But even when they honored me with a monogram, I think that was in 2013, and the video they played was LaFonso Ellis' era, and I said Got It 2 or 3 times in that, because I also did the games on WNDU on TV. We used to do 8 to 12 games a year on WNDU before Notre Dame joined the Big East Conference, and conferences took control of TV. So it's hard for me to answer that shortly. That's kind of the story of how Got It became a thing.
Nah, it's all good, Jack. The great Jack Nolan joining us here on Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. What's your favorite game you've broadcasted?
Easy. 5 overtimes.
I knew it was going to be that one. I was ready to almost say it for you.
How often do you get to do that? And the funny thing is,
I was stuck at WNDU during that too, because the game ended so late and I couldn't leave because I had to do morning sports. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm stuck here during the greatest game in basketball history, it feels like.
Well, and ironically, LaFonso Ellis was at ESPN then, but he would do 2 or 3 games a year with me, and he did that game. And LaFonso is so respectful and humble. He never wanted to talk over me. I said, "You're freaking LaFonso Ellis. Say whatever you want." But he could tell the dramatic moments, and I'll say, because I kind of taught him, and he stayed out of the way. But by the 3rd overtime, I feel like I'm losing my voice, and I'm afraid it's sounding awful. And it actually sounded pretty good. And the most flattering thing was everybody in the country was listening to the game, either online or on Sirius XM. I mean, I'm getting stuff from Jay Billis and Dick Vitale, Dan Schulman, and all these guys saying, "Hey, you listening? This is great." And it was the most fun game that I'd ever had the honor to call. And you've been in this situation. I didn't, at that point in my career, listen to entire games very often, but I listened to all 5 overtimes because I didn't want to blow it. I wanted to make sure I did the game justice. And starting with 48 seconds left in regulation, when Jaron Grant went on his own self-made 12-0 run to send it into overtime. It just, that stands out among anything that I will have ever done and will ever do. I'm retired. I'll probably never do another game. But even if I get another opportunity, nothing I think will ever match that.
You mentioned LaFonso. We talked about him at the beginning, going in the Ring of Honor, and you coming back for that. Can you put in perspective for people listening how good of a guy LaFonso Ellis is beyond just the basketball player and the basketball announcer?
There is no better human being than LaFonso Ellis. And he'll admit he made some mistakes during his life and that he wasn't always the person he is today. But I don't know anybody who is more humble. I don't know anyone who has accomplished as much as LaFonso Ellis has and remains as humble and helpful as he has been. All-Century team member, NBA star, and now he's on College Game Day. He's at the height of the broadcasting world, and he is still the same guy that I met when he was a freshman at Notre Dame. And he is generous to a fault, has a deep faith, and he always wants to help people. He's just a really, really nice person.
You're absolutely right. I love him to death, and he is just that. That's what it is. Just a really, really nice person. Jack, thank you very much. Enjoy retirement. Enjoy the beach.
I'm doing both, Anj. Good luck to you.
The great Jack Nolan, by the way, LaFonso Ellis' Ring of Honor ceremony coming up on December 11th. Jack and I also talked about some of the many cool moments he had over the years beyond just the games, like going to the White House, reporting on the Super Bowl, seeing the basketball court that's at the top of the Supreme Court. They have a basketball court there that they work out at, so you got to be a part of that. You could also hear that in our podcast version. That was almost like a podcast to itself. It was like a 7-8 minute answer. I'm like, Jack, we can't get this one in. We'll put it on the podcast version. So just search Irish Sports Saturdays wherever you're listening to podcasts. That feed will go live in about an hour or so once we get done with the show and are able to edit and put it all together. Your thoughts on the great Jack Nolan? Kevin?
I just like learning more about people. Again, I grew up here, so I saw him on TV all the time. It was really neat. I guess I'm more just impressed with the longevity, and then not that I'll ever be able to retire, but it's kind of nice to have the thought that retiring on a beach someday. Not for me, but for others. So I'm happy for him.
We were joking. The difference, Jack said him and Rhonda not blessed with children. Kevin's got 9, so they're in a totally different land of retirement positions, to say the least. All right, up next, it's our game day sprint as we preview Notre Dame versus Georgia Tech. Notre Dame FCU's Irish Sports Saturdays. Back right after this.
Hi, this is Tony Catanzarite of Catanzarite Financial Services. If you'd like help planning your financial future, contact me at tony@catanzaritefinancial.com. This message isn't about my business. It concerns something far more important, uniting our country under God. My father and mother, Joe and Mary Catanzarite, lived their lives based on love of God, family, and country. Consider the question I recently posed to their 8-year-old great-grandson, my grandson, Rocco. If we all do our best to keep the 10 Commandments and treat others the way we'd like to be treated, how many problems would we have? He looked at me and said, not very many. Sometimes it takes a child to open our eyes, simplify things, and help us find the truth. So let's all do our best to keep the 10 Commandments, treat others the way we want to be treated, and let's unite our country under God. For Catanzarite Financial Services, I'm Tony Catanzarite.
Securities and advisory services offered through Harbor Investment Inc., member SIPC.
We know you like football. So do we. We're TireRack.com, and this is our version of a 2-minute drill, except it's only 30 seconds. TireRack.com has an enormous selection of tires. Not sure which ones to buy? Use our tire decision guide to find the right tires for your vehicle and the way you drive. Then get them shipped fast and free on all orders over $50. Shipping is in as little as 1 day. Free. TireRack.com ships to independent, recommended installers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be. Touchdown!
Indiana Physical Therapy is your choice for physical and occupational therapy. We treat all walks of life, from pee-wees to professionals, Olympians, and those in between. Schedule at one of our 21 locations without a doctor's order. We accept all insurance plans and have the highest credentialed and most reputable staff. Open 7 to 7 to schedule the same day you call. Indiana Physical Therapy. Call 260-209-2464 or visit indianapt.com, where people go to get better.
Welcome to Tom's Car Care Center.
Thanks. I'm here for an oil change. How long do you think it'll take? I need to finish up some work and then stop and pick up lunch somewhere.
Well, if you need to work, we have free Wi-Fi here at Tom's Car Care, and our Coffee Spot Cafe has great choices from soups to sandwiches, salads and wraps, and a great place to sit down and enjoy your food.
Really? I can do all that here at Tom's Car Care?
Sure. You can even run your car through the Waterworks car wash after we're done.
Wow, what a time saver. Thank you. Tom's Car Care has it all.
Tom's Car Care, the Coffee Spot Cafe, and the Waterworks car wash, located at 3201 Sugar Maple Lane in South Bend.
This is a classic team that if you do not pay them the due respect and you do not play well against them, they will beat you. So they get your attention. I do. When I watch them play, it's good players on both sides of the ball. And then, as I mentioned with the Gibbs kid, I think he's the player of the year in the ACC, in my estimation, in terms of his talent and what he does to impact the football game.
That is Notre Dame football coach Brian Kelly previewing Notre Dame and Georgia Tech today at Notre Dame Stadium. The Irish 9-1, ranked 8th in the college football playoff rankings. Georgia Tech just 3-7. 2:30 p.m. kickoff on Senior Day at Notre Dame Stadium. Again, talking about Jahmyr Gibbs. Kevin, you've looked at Jahmyr Gibbs. How good is Jahmyr Gibbs?
He's explosive. So number one, when you're watching him, he's a running back, but he's also a kick returner. He's a little quick, kind of explosive, fast guy. Again, I think the big question, he's a talent, so obviously that's good. But the big question would be what's happening at quarterback.
Yeah, and you mentioned he's also the leading wide receiver, too, is Gibbs, with 35 catches. So he does a little bit of everything. Had a kickoff return for a touchdown last week. Here's Kurt Heinisch on what makes Gibbs so good.
I mean, he's so fast and he's elusive. And if you watch his film, he has great vision. He's really strong. He breaks tackles really easily. You're not going to arm tackle this guy. Really fast coming out of the backfield. We see him, on wheel routes and flares and stuff, how fast he is. He's great in open space. I can't say enough about the kid. He's a beast.
All right, so that's Jahmyr Gibbs. They've got one really good player.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, all right, quarterback Jeff Sims. You like Sims
Number 10.
better?
Yeah,
you like
he's a
Sims
good
better
player,
than
too.
Jordan Yates.
I do. He's big, rangy. He can run really well. But, we talked a little bit in the break. He may just be a little banged up from getting attacked.
He's gotten hit quite a bit. I think it was in the Miami game 2 weeks ago. So Yates started last week against Boston College. Sims has 12 touchdown passes this year, 7 interceptions. Yates has 6 touchdowns for 2 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean,
and Yates may be healthier,
right? And that could be the situation. And maybe if Sims, it gives him a little bit more. But again, I think we're finding the bright spots, right? Notre Dame Federal Credit Union has been serving the Notre Dame community for more than 80 years. That's 80 years of personal service to the Notre Dame family, putting people over profits. You share our values, why not share in our benefits? Notre Dame Federal Credit Union. How about Georgia Tech's defense? I didn't write anything down for them because, well, I don't know if they have one. Do they?
Yeah, they have a defense. They're pretty aggressive up front.
I know they have 11 guys that go out there and play against the opposing team's offense.
Their issue is giving up the big play in the back half. Their secondary, I don't know whether it's a communication issue, whether it's talent. Something is not right because if you watch through the course of a quarter, you're going to see a couple really big plays and people wide open, like something isn't connecting.
All right, let me ask you this. If Georgia Tech, I'm not even going to say if Georgia Tech were to win the game. I'm going to say if Georgia Tech is in the game.
I think they will be for the first quarter, maybe even first half.
Mainly because what? Notre Dame starts slow, various reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about it a little bit. Like, I thought Virginia's defense last week was really bad. Like, I was anticipating just throttling them on offense, but Notre Dame didn't. Like, they're still college football players. They're humans.
Yeah, because they're expecting to win.
Yeah.
And
again, Georgia Tech's defense is bad for the big play, but they make some big plays too because they'll be super aggressive.
Well, last year they had a fumble return for a touchdown against Notre Dame, I believe it was. Something return for a touchdown. All right, so they may be in it for the first quarter.
Yeah.
If they're in it still in the fourth quarter, what would be the reason? What would have to happen for them to still be in the game late? Difficult question, huh?
It is a difficult question.
Because they stink.
I would say for some reason, if there is zero run game by Notre Dame, that would be the fuel that would let Georgia Tech stay in the game and maybe win it.
Yeah, and I think
if there's zero, but
I think the only other
that's the strength of the team right now.
Yeah.
They're starting to build on.
Well, the other
and
way
Kyron.
would be a ridiculous margin in turnovers.
Yeah,
if
sure.
you have a uncharacteristic fumble, you've got 2 interceptions, and then all of a sudden it's 3-0 in turnovers. Maybe that keeps Georgia Tech in the game a little bit. Ilya, what are your thoughts on how Georgia Tech maybe sticks around in this game if they were? I mean, I don't think any of us think they will, but if they were to.
Well, we haven't mentioned if Georgia Tech is able to create their own big plays, not even just defensively, but offensively.
Or
if
special
they're
teams.
able to create or special teams, if they're able to create their own big plays, they could stay in this game.
Yeah, maybe Gibbs breaks off a big run and a kickoff return for a touchdown and sticks around in this. All right, Kevin, prediction?
I think Notre Dame 41-14.
Oh, come on.
Why, was that yours exactly?
Ilya, what do you got?
Wow. I went 40-13.
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
Ooh, crazy. What'd you do?
41-13. We all wrote it separately. We used to put
crazy.
the sheet. Come on. Now I'm going to make you guys submit these ahead of time because this is no fun when we say pretty much the exact. What is that? The aggregate exactly the same when you even things out. All right. Well, with that said, that'll do it for Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. Notre Dame FCU, where you bank does matter. For Kevin Downey and Ilya Glasman, I'm Angel Carlo. That means it's going to be a 3-point game, by the way. Notre Dame and Georgia Tech will kick off at 2:30 p.m. today at Notre Dame Stadium. You can watch the game on NBC, and we'll, of course, be back with you next Saturday at 9 a.m. here on Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. We close our pregame the same way the Irish close their pregame, in prayers.
Hi, this is Father Nate Wills. I'm a Holy Cross priest, a faculty member at Notre Dame's Alliance for Catholic Education, and one of the chaplains to the Notre Dame football team. This is a prayer that the players pray together at the end of our pregame Mass. Let us pray. Grant, we beseech you, O Lord our God, that we may enjoy continual health of mind and body, and by the glorious intercession of Mary our Lady, may we accept the joys and trials of this life and someday enter into eternal happiness. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Go Irish!
This has been a presentation of Redeemer Radio Sports. Thanks for joining us for Notre Dame Federal Credit Union's Irish Sports Saturdays. Enjoy today's game.
Listening to the home of all things Catholic in Michiana. 95.7 FM WRDI, Napa.